Okay, good morning, everybody. Looks like we're all on summertime today, so I like it. I like it. I am Norman Alston. I am chairman of the Public Policy Committee for AIA this year, and it's my pleasure to get to introduce our guests today at this coffee and conversation. Our main guest here is Andrew Espinoza, here immediately to my left. Yeah, Andrew is the comparatively new Director and Chief Building Official for the Development Services Department here at the City of Dallas. We as architects, know a lot about that and have a lot of interaction with that department, and we're very excited to have him and his crew with him this morning. Andrew has over 30 years of building construction code standards experience and started his public service career with the City of San Antonio in 2005. He spent 14 years with the City of San Antonio working as a plumbing inspector, combination inspector, plan review supervisor, and development services manager. Andrew joined the City of Dallas in 2019, and prior to his appointment to Interim Director of Code Compliance Services Department in February of 2022, he served as the Assistant Director in the Code Compliance Services Department. He has been instrumental in implementing city ordinances, launching the customer case management software, implementing a strategic illegal dumping plan, and bringing a customer service philosophy to the department. He has a master's in business administration and a bachelor of arts in applied sciences with a concentration in business from Texas A&M University, San Antonio. Welcome Andrew here, and Andrew brought some of his team with him this morning. So Andrew, I will let you introduce your fellow team members.
Thank you so much for that introduction. So to my immediate left is my executive assistant, Erica Pastrana. She helps me coordinate all of my meetings and kind of keep track of my messages and important appointments. So please feel free to connect with her and reach out to her. To her left is James Metzger. He's our deputy building official, and he's sort of kind of my right-hand man when it comes to making code interpretations and researching some of those really tough topics. And immediate to his left is Vernon Young. He is our assistant director over our customer advocate group, which kind of oversees our permits, licenses, certificate of occupancies, and also our strategic business unit. So he's very instrumental, and he's been with the department for multiple years. You probably know him. And then in the audience, come on up here. This is Sam Kander. He's one of our assistant directors who's over our engineering division and land management team. And so they came with us today so that you could meet them and kind of put a name to the face and be able to connect with them as well.
Super, thank you very much. It's quite a team here. I'm sorry I didn't think ahead to bring a roll of drawings and a submission. We have the whole, we could almost do a Q team sitting here in front of us. Okay, well, we'll get this program started. Moderating this group, asking question, of course, is our own Katie O'Brien. So I'll ask Katie to just come up and run the program.
Okay, everybody. So thank you guys so much for joining again. And we want this to be a conversation. The point is that we get to all have coffee. You can have some of Norm's pumpkin bread if you're in the room. And if you're online, you have to drink your own coffee. Sorry about that. But really, I'd love to give you a chance to talk about what you hope. And then we have some questions. And as always, there's a lot of people online this morning. So if folks online, please, as you know, add questions to the Q&A or to the chat, and we'll get to them as we go along. We're grateful for this chance to visit with the new leadership team at Development Services. But Andrew, I'd love to just let you kick off by what you hope the department, the kind of newly organized department looks like under your leadership.
Sure, thank you. I appreciate that. So one of the things that I really want to focus on is realigning the department so that it makes sense. So often departments are kind of siloed, and you have specific units that perform very unique tasks. But typically what happens is communication breakdowns, lengthy permitting delays. And so part of my initial assessment was to see how we're structured. Right? And so we've already realigned our team so that it makes more practical sense and it breaks down some of those communication barriers. And so that we can really develop that synergy that complements knowledge transfer, cross-training, and customer engagement. And so that's one key component that we've already implemented. The other thing too is, coming out of COVID, I believe that some of our team members became a little disengaged, working from home, kind of hiding behind the computer and less phone calls and in-person interactions. When I use the expression hiding, I'm saying hiding from the pandemic because we were trying to keep everyone safe. But coming out of the pandemic, some of those lingering practices have remained. And so now you have to work very hard to strategically shift the culture back to where we were, focusing on customer service, partnerships, relationships like these, engagements, because a lot of times that's what gets us faster resolution and really bridges the gap between the customer and city staff. And so that's really the two things we're really pushing hard on right now. The other thing is we're really assessing, our business model as it relates to the type of projects we take in, the turnaround times, performance metrics, and being able to equitably provide a service that benefits everyone. So right now we have a really simplified process as it relates to projects. Commercial projects all go into the same bucket, and there's really no tailored services for some of our customers. And so we want to implement and stand up some teams that provide those unique services and again, turn things around quickly for our customers as it relates to permitting processes. And then of course, as you know, our software, we're working very hard on trying to improve the software we kind of rolled out prematurely. We're trying to clean it up, make it more user-friendly, simplify the processes, improve communication. And our team has been working very hard to make those changes along with IT and the third-party vendor that's going to help us roll that out.
So in addition to being the department director for development services, you've been assigned the role of chief building official. Can you explain kind of how those work together, and specifically a little more about like what the job of chief building official can and should be?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So before I got here, we had the chief building official, and then we had the director. And those positions were actually housed separately. The director was at City Hall and the chief building official was at 320 East Jefferson. And so when I interviewed for the position, I kind of pitched it, hey, those two positions should really be combined because the director is making the decisions. And now he has to clear the decisions through a technical subject matter expert, which is the chief building official, which again causes additional delays and sometimes even possibly some disagreements. And so the thought was to connect the two positions so that we could get faster interpretations, turnaround times, and decision-making processes in place. In addition, it's really an industry best practice. If you look at other cities, that's how they're set up. And so the day-to-day operations of the chief building official is to, engage with the team, support the team, make interpretations, render rulings, make recommendations for, process changes and improvements. And so my job as a building official is really to work with the customers and partner with them, while at the same time casting that vision of where we want to take our organization.
I'd love for you and maybe Vernon or James to, y'all can weigh in. What does a new customer service model look like? We've had actually, great relationship with Vernon for a long time, but as you take over that vertical team under Andrew's department, what does that look like? Why is it different now?
It's different now. We're working on a meet and greet where someone is actually in the permit center greeting you as you come in. People are often trying to figure out, are they in the right spot? What do they need to do? And so the building is not conducive to the energy and the flow that we need. And so we feel like putting the right people in front of the customers will help alleviate some of that. We're looking at the call center, doubling the staff in the call center. That's been one of the constant concerns over the last 2 years, is that, hey, I was on hold for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And we feel like if we can answer those questions at that front line, then it'll be able to keep our customers moving, give them the direction that they need, give them the clarity, give them the confidence that we're there for them. A lot of times it's just a perception model that, hey, they don't care, when it's really, we've been understaffed. And as Andrew stated, we're trying to get our staff acclimated back to the in-house, in work, and the customers are here, the business not going anywhere. And you guys are our bread and butter, and we appreciate that. And so it's going to be a client-first model going forward, from TC to Magic to Andrew. Everyone's in agreement that permits make things happen in Dallas, and our customers are very important to what we do and how we do it.
That's exciting to hear, and it is an important part of the economic development snapshot of our city, but it also affects small businesses. I think there are a lot of AIA Dallas also represents, big firms, and there's some smaller firms too. So just like a lot of the other organizations and development stakeholder groups that you're visiting with, I think AIA probably receives and hears from both ends of the spectrum. How are you addressing the big guys all the way to the smaller shops, the little shops, who need to go get their permit, who need to get through the process and have some help?
So, Kate, thank you for that question. Right now, we really don't have a good handle on that. Again, a commercial project comes in, whether it's a 3,000 square foot occupancy in an existing building compared to a brand new from the ground up 80-story building, they all go into the same bucket of permitting processes, which makes no sense, right? What I tell our team is keep the simple things simple, and the really complicated things, break them down so that they become simple. And so some of the policies that we are proposing to stand up is identifying those parameters. And we want to work with your team to help determine what those parameters are. I think some of the preliminary discussions are anything 5,000 square feet or less, B occupancy, M occupancy. Let's push those through to a quicker timeline. Dedicate staff and resources to turn those around quickly. Obviously, if it's a hazardous occupancy, A or I, those may need to go through a more comprehensive review. It may take a little bit longer. So to answer your question, what we really want to focus on is providing equitable customer service based upon the scope of work and keeping things simple. Because we understand that this represents individuals' livelihood, jobs, revenue, spending, and future tax sustainability of the city. So that's really going to be our approach.
Well, we've called it lots of, the concierge model, the Q team. There's at some point, I don't think this has came to fruition, but there was talk about the H team. They were going to work on just affordable housing projects, and that didn't develop or manifest itself. But are we going to have another Q team or a tiered structure of Q teams? What does the Q team look like moving forward?
Great question. So I'm not sure if you guys got to see our briefing yesterday to the GPFM committee. We're actually bringing on an additional 39 brand new positions in development services. And the reason for that, there was a couple. One, we've seen the trend of permits increase, but not staffing level. Which means as a leadership team, we haven't really been effectively onboarding new folks and kind of building our bench and team. So city manager and our budget office has approved the 39 positions. To answer your question, a good portion of those positions will be dedicated to a secondary team because it's a service we want to expand and open it up more to our customers. The other positions will be hosted by our residential plan review team, our permit center, and our call center. And so we're hoping that bringing these additional team members on will equate to faster permitting times.
Okay, that's helpful. You're also headed into budget season. I can't say that today, budget season. Last cycle, before you had this role, obviously, there was a lot of frustration still, and there was some talk about like, should we privatize? Should we, James, I know you have a lot of good perspective on that just because you came, your most recent gig was at one of our third-party partners. What is that worth contemplating? Right now, we already have some third-party partners to help with plan review for specific projects, mainly the residential, right? So is that something worth expanding or changing? But, privatization can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So I'd love for you to answer it whatever way you see best.
So we're actually trying to put a team together and dedicate that to a third party for numerous projects. We're going to dedicate for housing as well as possibly Dallas Independent School District.
Mhm.
So we're in the process and drafting some of the parameters for all this, and we're going to sit down and discuss it with stakeholders and work something out. But that is what we plan on doing, is putting some of these teams together, and specifically that's going to be a committee, and that's all they're going to do. They're going to do the plan review as well as the inspection.
Something you said, I thought triggered another question for me. That is, Dallas IC is one of the frequent flyers, heavy users of development services in our permit office. How do you partner with other groups like that are either nonprofit, the hospitals, the school district, sort of these are other public partners in the space who still need to come to the city of Dallas for permits?
Yeah. So Katie, great
And
question.
sometimes think they're, they've got it made, but they still need to, do the work.
Say that one more time.
Sorry.
Great question. So I think you and I may have talked about this. Kay Bailey Hutchison, big project, 4 years worth of work.
Uh-huh.
Where-
All right, our own permits within
Our
the
own
city.
permits.
Yeah, that's great.
So the reason I start with that is, where is the staff coming from to support that initiative? It's coming from the existing staff at Development Services. That means we're pulling staff off of your projects and other projects to address that priority, right? And so some of the best industry practices that I've seen and that we want to try is standing up a special projects team, right? A housing team, you had referred to that. And I think it's a great idea, and we come up with great ideas, but where's the follow? Where's the execution? The other thing is hospital teams, a downtown team. Think about all the high rises that are coming into this area, driving our economy, driving hospitality, driving visitors, attracting folks. As a department, we need to be more supportive of the development community to make those projects happen, right? And I want everyone to know here that you have a commitment from me to follow through on these projects. And so, great point, but that's really the long-term vision for it.
So I think AIA Dallas and again, with other organizations in the development community often really weigh into policy issues too, which is different than what you all do. You're very much an implementation, external facing group, department within the city, but so often public policy considerations, whether it's the housing density programs or other things, they talk about, well, we'll offer expedited permitting. There were 3 enormous, very exciting economic development projects on last Wednesday's council agenda, and all 3 offered expedited permitting. How does your department interact with other policy decisions the city is making? And should you all have a bigger role in public policy and in those council policy decisions, or is it just your job to execute?
So thank you for that.
Because they don't ask you right now. I don't think they're asking your opinion before that.
It's a great question. I'll go back to Kay Bailey Hutchison. I talked to the economic Director Rosa Fleming, fantastic leader, love her to death. And I reached out to her and I said, hey, did we talk about potentially standing up a team to support you? I could even see them housed over there 100% of the time to gain additional efficiencies, right? She said, Andrew, we started the conversation, it kind of fizzled out and we can, revisit it. But to your point, I think what development services needs to do is be more supportive of departments like that. At least be at the table to have that conversation and have a collaborative discussion on how we can execute it.
Okay, that's helpful. All right, I have a zillion questions. Are there questions in the audience? I don't think I have a microphone today, but am I right in that we're all mic'd now? It's a magical mic. The whole room is mic'd. It's very exciting. Go right ahead.
Thanks. You mentioned it was kind of conversation style. So where you were, I had a couple of questions. One you picked up on was kind of what is that role for policy components? But you talked about the hiring of more staff, which makes a lot of sense, right? And we're all coming out of this funky time. So I think, as frustrating as it can be at times for the city, you're the guy that's sitting there, right? So the frustration's put there. And the flip side is, the compassion seems to need to be afforded because we're all finding our way back. But all that being said, with the hiring of new people, there's always a concern, is that even enough and how will they be utilized? And a comment that you also said was, how much time would be allocated, or should you be putting teams on specific? So I guess in my mind, to understand, or maybe the larger community to understand how improvements will happen, what are those kind of metrics? And I don't mean to get so much in the weeds as much as understanding how you all see this going into implementation to make it meaningful in a way that you can track it and see it and say, beyond the customer service and the communication breakdown, which is all really solid and good, but then for you all, it starts getting into those details, right? So hiring those more people and knowing that they already probably need to be more places than they possibly could be, even though they're all just coming in. What do you do internally to review and plan? And you see where I'm going with that.
Yeah, so a great question. I think we kind of talked about it, and I think it's very important to recognize that we've had enough discussion. It's time to get stuff done. And so the way we're going to do that is by implementing a strategic planning efficiency. And what it's going to do is lay out a roadmap for our success. It's in draft format right now. I've given it to my bosses. They've given me some feedback. We're going to refine it, and we're going to publish it. Guess what? We're going to hold ourselves accountable. Every meeting, we meet with our stakeholders, our neighborhoods, our communities, our developers, our contractors. We're going to bring that strategic plan. And say, here's how we're going to do it. Here are the 5 objectives we're trying to attain. Here are the timelines, and then it's going to itemize the things we're going to execute on. And the thought process behind that is being able to establish and kind of memorialize all of the recommendations that we've heard and received, and saying, guys, a team, here's what we need to do, and we're going to do it by such and such date. And I think that we took that model from code compliance, where we implemented a strategic illegal dumping plan. And it took us 2 or 3 years to get where we are, but we've got to start somewhere and say, here's what we're doing. We're laying the foundation, here's the structure, let's make this happen. So hopefully I answered your question.
I think mostly, I guess the part you talked about timelines is, the draft that's in place, and you need to go through your internal process to move it forward. What kind of timeline does that look like for the greater public?
I'm really hoping in July it gets out. I've been kind of pushy with my bosses.
I'm sure.
Give me this.
I'm not doubting that.
Push this out in English and Spanish,
Yes.
and blast it out there for everybody to see. Okay, I see what development services is working. And then what's really going to be cool is that you'll be able to grade us on how we're doing because of what we committed to. Right? We're signing on the dotted line, so to speak, when we do that to the community. And so I'm really excited to roll that out.
Norm, go ahead.
Okay, part 2 to that question then talks about the implementation, the matrices. Mine is this. You heard today several plans that are in development, things we're going to do. You got lots of changes coming. You got 39 people coming, positions coming. Unless it's totally different from architecture, it's going to take you a while to fill 39 positions in this market. I, as an architect who would come to you with a client and a project, how am I going to know what you're doing? What is it? Because there's nothing worse than walking in there and you go, no, we don't do it that way anymore. You have a plan for actually communicating this complex, encouraging but complex, years of reorganization and development. How do we, as a design and construction community, keep up with you if a lot of us don't come down but once a year or something, drop stuff off?
Got it. So thank you, Mr. Norm, for that question. And I failed, and I apologize earlier to introduce our communications officer, Ms. Robin.
Well, that's a good answer right there.
So
Robin's gonna fix it. It's fine.
So Ms. Robin,
You got a card?
Man and Robin, right, we got it.
so Ms. Robin has been busier than she's ever been, I think. I'm meeting with her regularly. We're communicating. We developed a customer service survey, a constant contact, a monthly newsletter. We're revamping our website. What else, Robin?
Everything. We've updated our socials. We're collecting contacts from everywhere because we want to keep everybody informed. You can sign up via text to get messages and emails and text messages from us. We're just really trying to communicate everything that we're doing. We're trying to be transparent. We're trying to be proactive and let you know what we're doing, what's coming, and then soliciting feedback on what we can do better. So if you have any ideas, please feel free to share me. Katie knows how to reach me.
Well, one question that I'm gonna ask related to that will you post these plans and updates on your new website?
Yes.
Okay,
Absolutely.
and maybe what would be helpful is we can push out your new social channels that are back to life, the text to join the newsletter that's been coming out frequently. There's a text to add, and also that I personally find it easier to Google what you're looking for on the City of Dallas website. So maybe we could send the direct link to your website, though, to your page on the city website. It's hard to find it.
I think we could also come up with some techniques on our end to help our members connect up with all of it. To begin with, this is all the things that all the different architects have. This is the thing that unites us all.
Right.
We all do this process, every one of us, little guys like me and you guys like that from across the street. And it's a totally different experience. And again, I work across the state. I don't do it in Dallas all the time. And a lot of times when I do, I'm going, what? When did we start that? So I want to make sure we get that out. We can help, AA can help do that.
Thank you. We'd appreciate the partnerships because that's what we want to do. We're partners in development with you and then the public and our other stakeholders. So anything we can do.
And a follow-up to that is, and Ms. Robin is working very hard to set up reoccurring standing meetings with groups like this, with the Hispanic contractors, Black contractors. Robin, who else are we meeting? We're advisory, the Development Services Advisory Committee.
Yes.
These are all meetings that kind of fluttered away during COVID. But coming out of COVID, we want to get back in the community, here with you, so you can see us, know who you are, and that way we can really develop those relationships that will help resolve so many of your problems and our problems. So this is a team effort, and we look forward to working with it. Yes, ma'am.
One of the features, you probably will have FAQs. So let's say there's Norm and it's like once a year, he has a question and he can't find an FAQs. It's a two-way street. Can Norm then contact you directly and type? And say,
Norm.
I can't, yeah, you're unique. But I can't find this. So here's my question. And then you have a staff that can get back to him with
Yes.
his unique question.
Yes, and we do have certain mailboxes set up for different job functions or job types. Right, but you can absolutely email me, Norm, and I will
You and I are gonna be talking here.
I respond
A little
very-
bit. I'm gonna treat you to some pumpkin bread here shortly and we're.
Okay, any other questions from our live audience or our friends online? There's a lot of you online. Somebody must have a question. Okay, otherwise you're gonna keep with me. What would be, for you and your team, what would be a quick win that you'd like to see, by the end of the summer?
Yeah, so great question. I think it's making sure that we get this new software update rolled out to improve the customer service experience and get the delays off of our back. So right now, what's occurring, and I'm not sure if this has been shared with you, but the software was rolled out and is hosted on our server. And our city servers sometimes cause a lot of the issues that we're experiencing. And so IT has been a fantastic partner. So this new project rollout will now be hosted on the cloud. And so we're hoping that this will streamline some of those inefficiencies, prevent some of those kind of communication breakdowns, which causes so much frustration and heartache on both sides. And I'll be honest, guys, our team really wants to do a good job. To think about how demoralizing it is. You're working, you got a stack of reviews and now the system's thrown out on you. And it does that 2 or 3 times a week. It's very frustrating for staff. And so, my heart goes out to them and also to the development community because you guys are depending on us to get things done. So quick win, let's get this software done correctly.
Okay, we'd love to see that. Talk about demoralizing. Let's talk about Ocmac, the Jefferson building. It is something that people talk about all the time. I don't know that it is the silver bullet to morale, but it is up there in things that people want to know. What's the status of the building?
I'll let Vernon. He's been there the
Vernon,
longest.
tell us the beginning.
Oh my gosh, we are diligently seeking another location. We understand the parking. We understand that, originally the building wasn't built to occupy it and flow the way it does. And so that creates part of the heartburn. We have part of the silos are actually physical silos because you have a group over here, a group over here, and there's a disconnect. And so we're seeking ways to remedy that within the building, but we're also aggressively seeking another location. And so there's some stuff in the works, and we hope to roll that out. I've seen more changes in the last 30 days. It's been incredible. There's a new energy. There's a new communication trend being pushed out there. We heard you guys. We understand that we haven't been available, that you don't know what's going on. You guys are gonna know what's going on. Robin is inundating folks with information. She's asking us every day, are there any new changes out there? Is anything going on? So as soon as we have some stuff locked down on the potential building, then we'll be more than happy to share. I'll tell you, I've been there 20 plus years, and for the last 10, 15 years, we've talked about getting a new building. We start, we stop, we start, we stop. I've seen more movement in the last 30, 40 days than I have my whole time there. I'm super excited. I hear that somebody has their pen out, their paperwork being looked at. And so I'm excited. I think, like you said, it won't change everything, but it'll show that we're walking in a new direction. I walk in this building and I'm amazed at the technology, at the flow, at the energy, at the light. And
You have an open invitation to the attics at any time. You are all welcome to come here and use this facility.
This
The
is
new microphones.
I'm sitting here in awe, and this is what we need to do. We want to replicate thing. So again, we're pushing hard on that, and look forward to rolling out some information soon. If everything keeps moving, we just have to get the blessings of the proper channels.
Is it true that this was on? Did I hear this correctly? That this was a topic of discussion in executive session for council recently? Like they're talking about it. It's on their agenda too.
My understanding was that they had a discussion in a closed session.
I'm sorry.
And certain questions and concerns were raised, as should be, right?
Yeah.
We're making a big purchase, and so the city staff is now responding to those concerns, and I'm confident that our elected leaders and also our city staff will make some good decisions.
I think that's hopeful though, that it's not, it's
Right.
the conversation is happening at all the appropriate levels. Andrew, there's another question online from the chat. What worked well from Ty Holcomb? What worked well in San Antonio that you hope to implement in Dallas? Conversely, what was not ideal in San Antonio's permitting process?
Yeah, some of the things that San Antonio did really effectively was training. They had a really robust training program, which came with incentive pay. So I had a building plans examiner who was certified as a building plans examiner, but then took the appropriate training, studied, hit the books, and got certified as a fire plans examiner, mechanical plans examiner, electrical plan. And so we did is we set a fee structure, right? Because we can't just raise everybody's salary, and we allowed them to own their own success. What it did is it added value to the organization and their customer service delivery. Now they were able to help more customers, have a good understanding of their expertise, but then broaden it with some additional study. That worked really, really well. And there's several cities that do that. City of Austin, City of Columbus. Dallas doesn't have that program, right? It doesn't make any sense. So my goal is to bring an incentive pay program to our department. Because guess what happens when you're properly trained? Your job.
What?
And so because we've had so much turnover, had a hard time recruiting, guess what? Now our efficiency goes down. And so I'm gonna push this extremely hard. My boss has already said, do it, right? And so it's just a matter of time, working with HR, compensation, communicating the plan. So Trey, I think it was Trey that asked the question. San Antonio did a fantastic job of doing that, as well as with their inspectors. So in Dallas, we sent 4 or 5 inspectors to one project. Why not send one with a combination inspector? Gain that efficiency, right? And at the same time, raise the profile of our department. Some of the things that San Antonio didn't do very effectively, and that's a really tough question because, when I think of San Antonio, I think of the gold standard, one of the best in the country. I really can't point out, I think the biggest struggle in San Antonio was they needed additional parking at their facility. They had a beautiful facility just like this one, but it's very hard to find anything wrong with that.
So I appreciate you sharing about Corpus because I didn't know that, but I was just wondering, I like the incentives and see why that would be valuable. Is there any way in there that the staff, that somewhere in there is mandatory about like a certain amount of training that all people should be doing in a certain?
So our staff is required to attend training, and they're also required to maintain their base certification. So as a building reviewer, I have to have my ICC plans examiner for building. But there is nothing there to incentivize them to take on additional roles and responsibilities. And where it worked really well when you had these kind of combination plans examiners was when we walked projects through. Simple finish outs, they come into, people look at them, issue the permit the same day, right? For commercial projects within certain parameters, right? And so I really am excited about trying to, roll this out. And hopefully our staff will take advantage of it.
There's a couple of really good questions in the Q&A in the chat. And one I'm going to ask that's related to your question is, how many licensed professionals do you have on your staff? And what about structured continuing education for reviewers after their certifications?
So
We obviously would love to hear all about the architects, but on staff, but
The engineers.
and the engineers.
So I'm gonna turn that question over to Sam Iskander. He is our interim development services engineer. He's a licensed PE. I'm not sure that we have the exact total for you today, but I'm gonna let him kind of share a little bit about our professions.
Yes, hi. So in the engineering division, we have obviously engineers and also surveyors. We do hire fresh engineers out of college that may or may not have their EITs yet. And same thing with surveyors, we might hire an SIT, but I believe we have at least 15 registered professional engineers and surveyors in our division. Obviously, we all have the continuing education hours that we have to do for our licenses. In addition to that, we encourage additional certifications. We do a lot of floodplain reviews. So we try to reach out and say, hey, would you like to try to get your certified floodplain manager certificates? So a lot of us are CFMs, and we try to take it an extra step further, lead. I have my lead, building design and construction. So we're always encouraging our engineers and surveyors to continue to get more certifications and have a more experience to bring to the table to do reviews and assist customers.
I think that's great and it's exciting. And again, we want to partner with you and with all of the professionals in your team. So that's wonderful. Yeah.
May I chime in? One of the things that earlier you asked about the Q team. Right now, the Q team doesn't really have sort of a design professional leading it. And so one of the things I really want to do with the Q team is add either an architect or a fire protection engineer to that specific unit so that they can be more effective at leading it, collaborating with, cross-discipline type, mechanical, structural, electrical professionals, engineering professionals, so that we can kind of problem solve some of those really high level issues that typically an examiner is not really comfortable with.
I think that's a great idea. And this is, again, similar to your process. Another question from the Q&A is how will the department move forward collaborating with the zoning and water departments or other city, water, fire, and other departments of the city to assist the overall process, truly from A to Z, how a project gets through the permitting, from permit to CO?
Yeah, so great question. I don't think that we've gotten to that point just yet, but I really do think it's a fantastic idea. And I'll rely on my subject matter experts. How do we build that same partnership that we're trying to do with the community, with other departments? You might think, hey, you're all the city of Dallas. You guys should be talking to each other every day. But sometimes that communication breaks down because the team is so large and everybody's so busy. But you just given me some homework to work on. And I assure you that when we meet again, I'm going to have something for you. But I could foresee an ongoing reoccurring meeting between the directors and assistant directors, kind of a collaborative brainstorming sessions, having folks kind of visit our shop so they can understand some of the challenges we experience and be able to really provide some good recommendations as we move forward. And that's what we did with gun compliance. When we developed this strategic illegal dump plan, we brought the Dallas Marshals in, we brought code in, we brought the sanitation department in, we brought development services in, because we understood it was a citywide problem. And so I think what I'm hearing is our permitting issues are also a citywide problem, and we need to collaborate with our as well.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I think would be very welcome because it's often, depending on who you talk to, they get snagged at different points in the process. It's not always just when they turn in their plans on project docs, which I think you've gotten a lot of feedback about that, but the truth is there's snags throughout the whole pipeline of a project. And another question more about the front end is what is the city doing about the pre-development meeting wait time?
So I will turn that over to Vernon Young, because his team actually helped coordinate those preliminary plan review meetings.
Wow. So during COVID, pre-development meeting became the most popular thing in town, and we get it. The doors were shut. the development sites in Dallas now are a little bit more complicated than they were. There's no easy pickings like they were. So let's just be truthful about that. So right now, the pre-devs are about 90 days out. And so there was a thought process when it was created, and we're still trying to stick true to that, is that the same person that the same staff member that attends and gives information on that pre-dev is actually a plan reviewer. And that way there was no gotchas. When we first started, I might do a pre-dev and then hand it off to Andrew, and Andrew would sit and be like, well, Vernon didn't tell you this. He was right. And now, and he's signing off on it. And so we're working on having more team members, but development in Dallas is blowing up, as you guys know. And so I just don't know. I've seen it back off, and it got into 4 months. And now it's about at 90, 80 days. There's some special meetings that we've just determined that we can have that take them out, as Andrew likes to say, the low hanging fruit. So a developer comes in and he says, well, I really only have a zoning and a building code question. Well, there's avenues and staff and team members that I can reach out to, and we can sit down and meet with them on that. If they want a full-fledged pre-dev, they're in PD 830 with a lot of the shop front overlays and all that, then they need to do a pre-dev, because Sam's group is gonna take a hard look at the engineering piece. And so there's opportunities there, and we can partner with folks as yourself and determine if there's another avenue. But right now, with the way Dallas is going, I'm excited that it's healthy and that they're stretched out. But we do have to find a way to get information out to the developers in another format if the pre-devs are going to be backed out 90 days. But I'm just excited because the ones that I tend to look at, there's some exciting things coming into Dallas right now. They're not the cut and dry box type stuff, and I think that's where the added value comes in pre-devs, and those are the customers we want to hit. But we also want to be there for the mom and pop, that lady that cooks incredible cookies, and she found an office she wants to convert into a restaurant. And if we don't guide her right, then she can lose a lot of money. And so my heart goes out to them. We try to make sure that we're available. There's always an opportunity for walk-in consultation if they have a one-off question of building code or zoning. And we try to ask our team members to partner with someone if they see something that's outside their purview. I see something, but I know this area has flooded. Let me put you in touch with Sam. And so we're doing little unique things like that.
How much do you think, like, our development advisory committee, I mean, has that provided any fruit for you? There's so many people, or is it just more issues of what everybody's not happy with? I mean, how do we on the outside continue to be your partner and helpful, knowing that at the end of the day, helping you helps us?
Right. There's a natural ebb and flow, and we get it. At one point in time, they seem to be the only voice that was being heard, and right. so there's some unique a unique opportunity to hear things out, and so we get that. Yeah, a lot of good things have come out. Andrew has partnered with management, and we're going to reinvest in that development advisory committee. We're going to re-engage those communications, but there is going to be an emphasis on what can we do next? How can we do this better? We don't believe that channel will be utilized in the future for a venting session. But we do want to hear what's going on, but how do you balance that out and move forward? How do you fix a flat tire, not talk about the tire being flat? I mean, that's where we are. We want to move. We're in this energized state where we want to get things done. And so we welcome all partnerships that want to invest in that, and not only tell us where they see an issue, but tell us what a potential solution is.
Yeah, and I think those development advisory committee meetings are helpful. We've talked about this a lot, and many of us in the room, I know Zayda and I have been to a lot.
Yes.
And they took a turn, but then they actually, at the end of last year, we were having a good conversation. It had a good cadence. It was becoming a more productive discussion, and I'm just excited that coming back, they'll take on that turn again.
Right, and I could think of some specifics. The DFR, there were some issues or disconnect with DFR. We were able to partner and get DFR in the room. There were some scenarios that played out with the water department. Again, just like some of the subjects that you guys brought up. And so those are that's a perfect platform for that, because a lot of times we're just looking at the building permit aspect. Well, as Andrew said, there's a connectivity to the zoning, if there's zoning issues out there. And so the format is set up for that and best utilized in that arena.
And so I love this. There's somebody from your team, Shayla Leyendecker, who's asked a question of the audience, of all of us. Is the list of contacts that many of you have received useful? And pointing us back to our own website and information. Shayla, I love that question. I don't know. I'm going to open it up to the crowd. If that has been useful, I think we can do a good job of with so many of the resources that you all have pushed out in the last week. Even you have the new org chart and the new contact lists that were all posted through Robin's e-glass. And so we can get that all synced on our site, either directing right back to the cities or posted directly. But I do want to call out, and I will ask someone from AIA and audience, maybe can share a little bit about our committee structure and the codes committee and the work that we do, which I think dovetails so much with development services. If I could.
Shayla is part of our codes and standards.
Right, so this is like a perfect mix of she's on your team and ours.
Right, we usually get information directly from her, to the committee and others, right, that are involved in the codes. So we were able to participate in sending comments to the most recent ordinance amendment for the, chapter 52 and 55. I mean, all of those, building codes and the amendments that you just adopted for tiny homes and for mass timber, and then the administrative provisions. So we worked directly with building inspection with David Session, and also through the codes and standards committee. So we try to stay in touch. And then we did an education session for our members to also share the updates and make sure that our members know what's happening. So we try to really stay up to date.
More questions? We are up against our time. And so I want to be respectful of everybody's mornings. They're breezy, cool June morning that we're having here. Any final questions? I would just like to say, it's a question, but it's really a statement. Whatever AIA Dallas can do to help you all, they are willing to partner and support. This is an organization of really positive doers, people who are working. They are committed. This organization is committed to urban placemaking and making the city a better place to live, work, and play. And so I think anything that this organization can do to support you all as a resource, as advisors and technical experts, I know that AIA, it stands ready, and look forward to working with you all moving forward.
Thank you.
All right.